feel like if you're not making anything better in your life or in somebody's life, you're stagnant and it's not fulfilling. Growth can help others. It helps you also lead a fulfilling life. As people who work in healthcare, we never stop growing. The moment you stop growing and learning new things, then you have no business being in medicine.
Welcome to another episode of the Zambezi Belle podcast. I am so excited today to have our guest. She's one of those people that I have admired for so long since I lived in Nebraska. So that's about 8 years when I found out about you, really. And I was like, oh, why does she seem so familiar? And I really have been kind of peripherally following your journey as we've been going through life. And I am excited to have you on the podcast so that I can get to know a little bit more about you and we can discuss all things that have to do with women's health and what we need to do to be healing ourselves from the inside out and what we need to do for our mental, spiritual, physical health. So our guest today is Miss Charlotte Holcomb. She is a nurse practitioner, but most importantly, she's a mother of three very beautiful children, and she's a wife, sister, and auntie, friend. Above all, she's a believer in a higher power, and that higher power might as well be God. So, welcome.
Thank you. I am super excited to be here. And I have to tell you now that the feeling is mutual. I've been stalking your Instagram and your Facebook for the longest time. I feel like I already know you.
Love it. Well, let's start with the word of prayer and then we'll get started. Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this amazing day that you gave us. Thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for this opportunity that we have to sit as sisters to just talk about life and talk about the things that we need to be doing to help with our healing and our journeys to wholeness. Thank you for everything that you do for us. Please be with every single person that is going to listen to this podcast, everyone that's going to be touched by this podcast. Help them in everything that they do and help them to know their purpose and to be able to live their lives in a way that is pleasing to you and brings glory to you. We love you. We honor you. We praise you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Miss Charlotte, let's start by you just introducing yourself, telling us about who you are and your journey to the United States.
Well, I'm Charlotte. I come from a very big family. I was born in Zimbabwe. I come from a big family. My mother had two sets of twins. So she was pregnant 9 times. So that made us 11. Unfortunately, two of my siblings passed away. I'm an identical twin. My other sister, she's a fraternal twin. So being a twin is a very big part of who I am, I think, how it shaped me. Having so many sisters has also influenced some of my choices in a lot of ways. I grew up actually in the village in Chivu, went to college to Harare. At Harare Polytechnic, I did printing and graphic arts. Unfortunately, I could not use that certificate because I realized that I had a very bad asthma. So the chemicals that we're using were exacerbating my asthma. So I ended up having to quit that job, even though I had the certificate to back it up. I got married at a very young age. I got pregnant when I was 20. Then I had my first child at 21. She's 23 now. So could I have done something different? Yes. Am I grateful that I have her? Absolutely. Being married at a very young age affected my life in so many ways. But growing up, my dad was a teacher. He was an educator. My mom, she was very involved in the church, in the community. She would sew, she would knit. She had a lot of other projects. She was an entrepreneur, I could say. I'm thankful for being her daughter. Uh, God bless her. So she passed in 2016. I was already here,
Wow.
but she taught me a lot, about love, relationships, just being human. I learned a lot from my mom. So a lot of how I raise my kids, it has a lot to do with what I learned from my mom. So getting back to my big family, so there were like 11 of us, but you find that my sisters were already older when I grew up. Honestly, I used to hate that I came from such a big family when I was younger, but now being older, I appreciate it so much more because my
Wow.
sisters, they are like my rock. I can
Yeah.
pick up the phone at any time, any day. Someone is always there to talk to me, to guide me, you know. So that is a big part of who I am as well. My dad still lives in Zimbabwe. I get to see him every once in a while. He also influenced us in a lot of ways because most of my sisters are like teachers. We have nurses as well. In my family, we have lawyers. So we're all professionals. Education was a very big part of my family. I remember when we were growing up, every day after dinner, we'd read a book, would take turns reading an English book. It had to be an English book. So that shaped me in a lot of ways. It helped shape the person that I am right now. And then I came here in 2000. It was after I'd already divorced from my first marriage. I think things were starting to really be difficult in Zimbabwe economically. So I figured, you know what, I can try to go out of the country. I was working, you know, you find that you're working, but it's not really helping you and you're
Yeah.
not growing. My sister was already in the UK and she said to me, why don't you try applying to other places? It's not just Zimbabwe, try other countries. So I tried here in the US. I went to Southwestern Michigan College in Michigan. So I came on a student visa.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. And that was in 2008?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was in med school at that time, did two classes at Southwest Michigan College. Yeah, because I
Nice.
would drive from Lake Michigan College and to Dowagiac because I
Oh,
was doing like,
the Dowagiac, yeah, that's where I went.
yes. Oh,
And
wow.
driving in the snow, in the cold, it was awful.
Yes.
It was really awful.
Wow.
Yeah, but I had to grow because I had to remember that I had a child back home. So
Yes.
I worked very hard. I was going to school full time, but I was also working because I was trying to bring my child here. I
Yeah.
could not, you know, not be with her. So fortunately, after so many things, you know, back and forth, I managed to bring her here in 2013. And then by that time, I'd already met my current husband. God bless his heart. He's very patient with me and he accepted me the way I am with all my faults. So I'm always grateful for that.
You meet him.
I met through friends, through some mutual friends in college. He was in Chicago, but I was in South Bend then, South
Okay.
Bend, Indiana. Yes. So we met through some friends and we became fast friends. We were friends for a while before we started dating, and then it just progressed from there. And he's been my rock.
So I know your husband is white.
Yes.
And how was interracial dating for you? And also just the blending of your family because you came with a daughter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think at first it was very challenging, to be honest. I don't want to lie. It
Yeah.
was very challenging because you're bringing in two different cultures, two different families, a blended
Yes.
family. So we had to learn to make a lot of compromises along the way. We broke up at some point and spent like a year apart
Really?
after we had had our son before we got
Wow.
married. So we did
Okay.
it backwards. I think both of us needed to grow up a little bit and also to have time to just think like what is important to me? What do I want in this relationship? What am I willing to compromise on? So what we did is we when we got back together for the second time, we we had a meeting, like we treated it like as a business meeting. Yes, like a no holds barred kind of conversation, like what are you willing to compromise on? What are your expectations in this relationship?
Yeah.
What are the things that you cannot tolerate?
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of crying. I had to learn to be vulnerable. Let
Yes.
me just say that.
Yes.
So we had to talk about sensitive issues like finances, how we want to raise our kids,
Mm-hmm.
because we realized, you know, most of these relationships, they break down because you are not on the same page.
Yes.
Yes. So with him, it worked because he had a daughter who was almost as the same age as my daughter
Okay.
from a previous relationship, and then we have a son together. So we, both of our partners were not heavily involved in our other kids' lives. So that made it a lot easier. I'm not saying to my kids because I'm sure my daughter would have preferred to have a dad close by, and I encouraged her to maintain that relationship as well. And he did the same.
In terms of dating before you met your husband, how was that kind of dating? Because growing up in Michigan, in a community that had quite a bit of Zimbabweans at the time, even though it was a small town, but it was a college town. There was a good sized Zimbabwean community. I was at that time 14 to 18 when I got pregnant. So I never really did the dating scene in the African community because I would have preferred to date. At that time, I was very pro date African, you know?
Yes, I
And
did that too.
yeah. And then now my husband is a white boy from Kansas. But how was that dating scene? And what do you think, looking back to that girl, what are the things that you would tell her in that time period?
First of all, I have to start by saying I have dated somebody from Zimbabwe. When I
Okay.
came here, I was dating somebody from Zimbabwe, actually. Contrary to what people think or may want to spin it, to look like he brought me here. No, he did not. I brought myself here. I was in a relationship with him. It
Okay.
did not work out because I felt like he was very short-sighted. When I mean short-sighted, I mean you're not looking at somebody's potential. You are treating somebody based on where they are at that time,
Yes.
but you're not looking at their potential. You're not looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes.
So that relationship did not work out because of that. And even before that, when I was in Zimbabwe, it was even worse because as a divorcee, I
Mm.
lost friendships, I
Yes.
lost relationships. Sometimes there were times when we had mutual friends who are also married couples,
Yeah.
but when we divorced, they also divorced me. So
Yeah.
it was very painful. The women that I used to hang out with who were married, they were
Hmm.
now looking at me as a threat.
Yes.
Like, you are looking at my husband the wrong way. You're looking at them sideways when it wasn't even the case. So I felt like I needed support from my friends and even some of my relatives, but I did not get that support. I don't know if it's just a mentality, African mentality, that when you're divorced, then you're damaged goods.
Yes. And that right there, damaged goods. I have to say that for the longest time, I lived in this space of being damaged goods. Because after I got divorced, I was divorced at 23 with two small children, and I had heard for so long, nobody's ever going to want you. And where are you going to go with these children? And who's going to want a divorcee? And all this and all that. And you start believing it, even though you know deep down that you are worthy and you are valuable. We need to remove this in our culture when we do dowry and we say we're paying for damages because I got married after I'd already gotten pregnant.
Yes.
And so it's like damages are part of what you pay for that. And so it's not something that you can just remove from your psyche.
No, it's not. I wish we could teach our parents, our sisters, or cousins, a new, different way. There's so many things I like about our African culture.
Yeah.
There are also some things that I like about the American culture, but that one part about people who have been divorced, the way they are treated in our culture, I do not like that at all. And I wish it could change.
How was the mind shift for you when you say you broke up and then you got together and you had to really have that life relationship business meeting? What was the mindset that you needed to be able to put aside all those other things that affected the way that you were coming into the relationship?
Yes.
Because I truly believe that when you're broken and you don't put the work to work on your brokenness, you're going to attract broken people. And
Yes.
when you're in a relationship with someone else that's in a broken place like you, it doesn't work. You cannot have a healthy relationship from that. So, what's the mind shift that you had to make? And what advice would you give to that single mom who is a divorcee or never been married, but is a single mom who is wanting to get themselves in that space where they are in a healthy relationship and healthy partnership?
I think part of the reason why my relationship did not work is because I think I was very bitter and broken. Hurt people hurt others.
Yes.
So I was always blaming other people. I did not focus on me too,
Yeah.
to say, what can I do different?
Yeah.
What could I have done differently to make this work? So I had to really look into myself and say, you know what, Charlie, you messed up on this one.
Yeah.
You need to learn to take accountability of your actions. It's not always the guy who has to make compromises. You also, as a person, has to look into yourself and say, what can I do to make myself better? What can I do to heal? I listened to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot of books about just self-healing that helped me. And I also had to be honest about me as an individual to my partner. Like, I have a lot of ADHD. If that happens, I'm like a scatterbrain. Even my kids like not now know that. Like
Yeah.
sometimes my husband will be talking to me, and then in my head I would have already responded to him. So that was a big problem because he would say I'm ignoring him. So I had to be vulnerable and say, I realize that maybe this has never been treated, but it's a problem that I have, but I want you to not have to take it personally.
Yeah.
So now whenever we say something and I can hear him, but in my head I've responded,
Yeah.
but he's thinking I'm ignoring him. He doesn't lash out
Yeah.
like he used to do. He'll come and say, babe, look at me. Eyes on me, babe. This is important. Can you focus on me just right now? So
Yeah.
he doesn't get mad, like what I talked about before. Like he had to accept me
Mm-hmm.
the way I am. Know that even though I want to change, there are some things about myself that I cannot change. So
Yeah.
that was a very big part of myself. Even as a provider, I've had to consciously remind myself to be in the moment,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Because
Yes.
sometimes my brain just works differently.
Yes.
So,
And I
yeah,
understand because I do a lot of things. And so sometimes it can seem like I am not paying attention to the
yes,
people around me, the people that I love. And so it's very important for me to just sit and look at them and not
exactly.
have my phone, not have anything, and just focus on them.
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit about being a twin. So I
Oh,
assume that your twin sister was your best friend from the womb. So
yes.
you already had a ready-made best friend, but tell me a little more about how that is and if that um, affected you growing up in terms of individuality and how you kind of navigated all that for those who are raising twins.
Yes. So for us, honestly, I think when we were growing up, my mom would treat us like we're one person sometimes.
Yeah.
So when one person does something wrong, she would beat both of us.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, because at school, I remember very well, like, contrary to what people think,
Hmm.
my sister and I, we have so many things that are the same,
Yeah.
some characteristics like facial and stuff, but character-wise, we have some differences. My
Okay.
sister she's more quiet, she's more calm, but I'm more like out there. But
Yeah.
when it comes to friendships and relationships, my sister is more accepting and more outgoing. I'm a little bit more, I did not take time to culture a lot of relationships because I had a ready-made friend, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So it has been a problem for me like my whole life that I don't put as much of an effort as I should
Yeah.
in building relationships because I already have a ready-made friend. I can pick up the phone anytime.
Yeah.
So it's something that I've learned to do that, you know what? I also need some friendships out of my sister.
Yes.
So it's something that I'm learning to do. And I think I'm succeeding in a little bit.
How are you sustaining your friendships and what do you do to sustain those friendships? Because you're busy.
Before I had an aha moment about why I was acting the way I was doing. I
Yeah.
would say when somebody says, "Oh, let's go out for drinks or whatever," I wouldn't even make an effort. I would just say, "Ah, no, I'm busy," even when I'm not, because to me it's not important. I have a friend.
Yeah.
Now I actually try to reach out to and say, you know what, let's meet up, let's do this, let's have
Yeah.
coffee, let's do all this. Yeah,
It takes intentionality to be able to maintain friendships as an adult because you don't have that time to just be sitting and talking all the time.
Exactly. And I think it is also very important to know the nature of your friendships because you have different friends for different scenarios.
Yes,
I have
yes.
a friend whom I can talk to about my family problems
Mm-hmm.
if I need help. I have
Yes.
a friend whom I say if I want to just relax and have fun, I reach out to that person. So it is important to know why you are in that friendship.
So, how do you balance self care with being a busy mother, wife, and career woman?
Well, I like to cook. I like to cook and I like to go hiking. I also realize that, being in a marriage is sort of like a partnership. There's not a 50-50. Sometimes it's 70-30. Sometimes it's 40-60.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what your partner needs and incorporating that. Like for me, I'm so lucky because my husband is such a helper, such a cheerleader. He
Yeah.
helps me in so many different ways. He understands me. When I'm having a bad day, he knows and says, "Babe, you don't have to worry about cooking today. Let's just order in or something." And then when he's having a bad day too, I do the same. And I'm lucky because my kids too, they've grown and they've become like young adults now, like my two girls. I mean, we have our problems just like any other young adults, but for the most part, they're good kids. And I have a very good support system. My father-in-law is amazing. My teammates at work, oh my gosh, they make it so much easier because otherwise, you have to take work home, you're not getting enough support, you get stressed. So I can safely say I have a very good support system from workmates, family, my sisters who are my rock, and my amazing husband and my kids. So it all kind of comes together.
Love that. Tell us a little bit more about your education journey. How did you go from Southwest Michigan to now being a nurse practitioner? And what do you practice?
Yes. So I went to Southwestern Michigan College. And then after that, I got pregnant with my son, Tyler. And then I moved to Chicago. So I started going to Chamberlain College to take my prerequisites for nursing. Initially, I wanted to do accounting, but my sister was like, you know what, just go and do nursing. Maybe you might actually like it. So I tried it and I loved it. And then I went to Chamberlain College for my bachelor's degree. And then I went to Olivet, also in Chicago, for my master's degree. Now I'm about to go back to school. Maybe God willing this year, maybe get another certification or get a doctorate. I still to decide.
What's your practice like?
Okay, right at this very moment, I work full time for a Medicare Advantage plan. So it's basically primary care,
Okay.
but it's also uh, part of the insurance company. So it's a new thing that Medicare is pushing these days because it makes it easier for their members to get care faster than they would. So I get to see I have a panel of patients in nursing homes, assisted living facilities, independent living, and memory care. So I get to see them sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on their needs. So
Yeah.
I'm basically just their primary care provider. So what it does is it kind of helps so they don't go to the emergency room all the time. These are folks who are older. I work with geriatrics right now, and I love it. I love working with my elderly patients. They just complete me. Yeah.
You did mention that you love hiking. What's your favorite place you've been hiking so far?
So here, I live in Arizona now, so it's all mountains around me. So any direction I take is fine
Yeah.
because it's all mountains and it's beautiful. So honestly, I can say anyway here is perfect. And they have a lot of hiking trails as well.
How hard is it? So I've been to Arizona, but every time it was in January both times. How is the weather?
So today I think it went up to 90 degrees already.
Yeah.
So usually in the heat of summer like June, July, it can go up to like 120.
Ooh,
S-
I like hot, but 120 is a little too
I
much for me.
know. I don't I don't miss the cold though.
No, but 120 and it's all just dry heat.
It's dry heat. Honestly, my skin has changed since I've been here because I don't know what to use. It gets so dry.
So here it's very humid. It gets hot, like maybe 104, 105, but it's just
Oh,
very humid.
Oh, I don't know if I can survive the humidity.
I don't mind it. I still sit outside all day when I can.
Yeah, I should definitely visit Mississippi.
Yes, you have to visit Mississippi.
Yeah.
There might not be too much to do here, but we'll take you to the beach. So
Oh,
that's
I
fine.
miss going to the beach. We don't have beaches here. We don't have those.
So we technically don't have one very close, but we have one not too far away that's beautiful. So every year we go to Orange Beach and it is
Oh,
beautiful, beautiful water. Orange Beach is not very far from us. It's about three and
okay.
a half hours.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
also Pensacola is not very far from us and Destin is not very far from us. We have beach options.
Okay. And you have the big Mississippi River.
We do, we do.
Mm.
So tell me a little bit about current life mission and purpose.
You know, the last time I went to Zimbabwe, that was 2019. I was staying at my sister's house. Her husband is a physician at Padrenyatwa Hospital. So he's a consultant. So he was going to see patients, and he said, "You know what? Come with me. I want you to go see, what we're doing. You can just sit by the reception." So I sat, and something really got to me. I saw a mother who had two kids. They had a lot of wounds, just wounds everywhere in bilateral, like lower extremities.
Yeah.
So, like, it was everywhere and it was really bad. So it got me thinking, like, there should be some kind of wound care available for people everywhere. And I would like to do that at some point, just help people, especially in wound care, because I feel like it's something that should be easy to treat, but they make it such a big deal. It
Yeah.
should be available. I've made it my life mission that when I go back to Zimbabwe, I want to set up a wound care clinic where I'll have maybe a day or so of just free wound care clinic where people can come and get help and see where that takes me. I would really just want to do that.
What is the one word for this season of your life?
I would say growth. Growth.
Mm,
I feel like if you're not making anything better in your life or in somebody's life, you're stagnant and it's not fulfilling. Growth can help others. It can
yeah.
help you also lead a fulfilling life. As people who work in healthcare, we never stop growing. The moment you stop growing and learning new things, then you have no business being in medicine. First one, obviously, is my mother. I
Yeah.
would want to sit down with her again and just tell her how much I appreciate her, how much she has raised strong, phenomenal women. I would like that opportunity to do that because she has made me the person that I am today. The second one is Dr. Price. Definitely. I look at you and I admire you. I read your book and I've just your journey, the way you talk, like what you've been through, is just phenomenal. And you're a surgeon, a black surgeon from Africa, for that matter. So to me, that is like the highest of achievements. So I would like to sit down with you and have dinner with you sometime.
Okay. When you come to Mississippi.
Absolutely. Or you can come to Arizona too.
Yes.
Yeah. So for my third one, I would say Bozoma, St. John's. Of
Yes.
course. She
Yes.
is fierce.
Yes.
Okay, like my children would say, she's badass. She's a total badass.
The
And
baddie.
she's a baddie. I would like to sit down with her and ask her, like, what makes you tick? She is phenomenal. She is
I love
fearless.
her too.
I
I read her
admire her.
book. It was so good.
I'm gonna read that.
You haven't read it yet?
I haven't. I
You
need
have
to read
to.
the book.
So
Yeah.
I did. So I read it and I also listened to it on audio, on
Oh,
Audible. Yes.
that's my thing these days. Audible,
Yes. And
audiobook.
just hearing it in her voice, I loved it. You won't put it down.
Oh my gosh, I'm definitely gonna do that tonight. I'm gonna
Yeah.
download it tonight. So yeah, those are my three ones.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to give you a lightning round of questions. I'm going
Okay.
to ask you three random questions.
Okay.
First question. What is your dream place in the world if you could just pack up and go for a week? There is no limitations and money is not a problem. So it could be the most expensive place, it could be the least expensive place. What would be your dream place to go and visit for a week?
I would like to visit Thailand. It's actually on my bucket list.
Really?
I feel like it's just so rich in culture
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. So I would definitely want to visit Thailand.
Okay. What do you think about heaven?
Honestly, I don't know because I've had a very trying religious journey. My parents were Anglican when I was growing up. I grew up Christian Anglican, but as a child, I hated going to church
Why?
because my parents used to force us to go to church.
Okay. I hear that a lot from kids.
Yes. And as I grew older, I started comparing churches and religions. I went to Catholic. I also went to non-denominational ones. I also went to like Christ Embassy. But I realized that things are so different now. I've had to accept that there's a difference between being a Christian and fellowshipping.
Yes.
I can be a Christian without necessarily fellowshipping.
Yeah.
So coming back to your question, do I believe there's heaven? Yes. I'm not sure if it's called heaven, but I feel like there should be something more
Yeah.
after death. It
Yeah.
can't be the end.
Yeah.
There are so many things that happen in our lives that we don't have explanations for. So heaven, it might not be heaven as well, but I feel I'm not gonna say heaven. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say afterlife.
Afterlife.
Yes. And like I said, I've had like a very trying religious journey. I've tried to read the Book of Mormon. I've tried to read the Bible, but there's so many contradictory things there that sometimes make me go like, okay, who wrote this?
Yeah.
I question a lot of things, but I always believe that there's a higher power.
So my question to you then is, did any of those things change after mom died?
Yes, a lot. At first, I was angry. When my mom died, I was very angry with God. Like how, if you're there, how can you let this happen? So I
Yeah.
think I went through all those, stages
Stages.
of grief where you're angry, you get emotional, and then came acceptance. And then I remembered my sister told me, like, when my mother was sick, she prayed for all of us, including her grandchildren. So now whenever I say, you know what, I want to do this, I want to try to have this accomplished this year, I should pray about it. My sister will go like, don't worry, our mother already prayed for us. Yes. So
How has your grief journey been? Because you said your mom died in 2015,
in 2016,
2016. Oh,
yes.
that's a year before my mom died.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Thank you. So
Uh,
how has your grief journey been?
at first I was very angry, like I said, but it got to a point where I said, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. Even me being here happens for a reason. It was her time. I think what really got to me was that my mother had pancreatic cancer, so she only was sick for 2 months. She was given 6 months, but she only lived for two.
Yeah.
Yes. So it was a shock. I was in nursing school. I was going through a lot. I didn't get to say goodbye, so I think that was part of it. Like if I had said goodbye, it would have been better.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of support from my sisters, and they assured me that, you know what, mom knows. Mom
Yeah.
knows you wanted to be there. She
Yes.
knows you couldn't be there. So you
Yeah.
need to learn to be kind to yourself. Need to learn to forgive yourself. So I've had to learn to do that.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I was not settled emotionally. I remember this one time I had a dream and I was crying, and my mother came to me and she gave me a hug and told me that it was okay. And since that day, I felt like I'm at peace.
Wow.
Yes.
That's so powerful because when my mom died, similar situation from the time that she was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer to when she died, it was literally 3 weeks. So there was not enough time to prepare. Up until that point, she was working full time. And my mom had never missed a day of work. She had the strongest work ethic I'd ever seen in my life.
They don't make them like that anymore.
No, they don't. They don't. And so, and I was in my final year of surgical residency
Oh my
in New
God.
York, and they lived in California.
Yeah,
And my
that is
sister ended up uprooting her whole life from Indiana and moving to California to help mom in her last days. And I've always regretted not being there. And, I went home and I saw her, and, she would say, I'll get into her room and I would be crying. And she would say to me, "Iwe, kana uchida zvekuchema buda muno."
You know, that's what
You
my
know?
mom.
And
Yeah,
it was
my
like
mom
I
said.
had just gone for the weekend, and then I went back to New York, and I was there, and my sister calls me one day and she says, Mom is having problems breathing. We've called an ambulance to take her to the hospital. And I said, "Oh, do I need to come home now?" And she said, "No, let's see how she does, and then if if she's getting worse, then you can come
I know
home."
you can count.
So that was on a Monday. And the next day, I was like, it's like when the Holy Spirit talks to you, and the Holy Spirit just told me, you need to go home and see your mom. And so at that time, I remember I was talking to one of my friends who's a trauma surgeon in Detroit. Her name is Violet. She's from Kenya. And I was talking to her, and I was literally just saying, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I should go. I don't know if I should wait, because my sister said, just wait until, we see how she does. And it wasn't 20 minutes later, she had already booked me a flight to go home. And she was like, well, now you're going, because I already
Imagine
booked you a
that.
flight.
Yeah.
That is one of the greatest gifts I've ever received in my whole entire life.
Oh my gosh. Like somebody just told her, you know what, you need to do this for her.
Because I went home and the next day she passed away. And I always had that regret that I could have been there for those last 2 weeks of her life with her and not being in New York. But she kept telling me, even if I die, I want you to finish school. I want you to complete what we started. Because she'd say, it's not what you started, it's what we
What we
started.
started.
It's the whole
Yeah.
reason we came here, so you could follow your dream. So I want you to complete what we started, and I don't want anything to get in the way of you finishing your surgical residency. So I want you to go back to New York.
And it's brutal. And I'm sure I feel like for you it was even much worse because you're a physician and
Right.
you're thinking, I'm helping other people. Why
Yes.
couldn't I help my mom? That
Yes.
must have been very difficult for you.
Yeah. And being a general surgery resident, I had done breast cancer surgeries so many times. It was just very devastating.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I've had to really come to terms with it.
But yeah, it took me a very long time to get over it. But by the grace of God, I've learned to accept it and say, you know what, she's in a better place. She's not in pain anymore. And I'm thankful for my husband, my sisters, my friends. They've all been there.
You did say that you like to cook.
I do.
What's your favorite meal to prepare for your family?
Uh, Oxtail and rice.
How do you make the oxtail?
I boil it
Hmm.
like for a very long time because I like it to fall off the bone.
Okay.
And then I roast it. And then I put it back in the pan. I make it a stew.
So you roast it in the oven?
So first of all, I boil it. After I boil it, I roast it. Then I put it back in the pan and make it a stew. Add tomatoes, onions, peppers,
Yeah.
and I also like cilantro for
Okay.
garnishing. Yes.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I like to try new things like Google online, new recipes. I like that.
That's awesome because I don't like cooking.
It's a good thing because my husband don't doesn't like cooking. My kids don't like cooking.
Yeah.
So I'm totally comfortable in the kitchen. It's like my most favorite place of my home is my kitchen.
Yeah. That
Yes.
that is awesome. Yeah, my husband, I don't know if he likes to cook, but cooking ends up falling on him. Otherwise, nobody's eating
At
in
least
the
mine
house.
does the laundry because I don't like doing laundry. So he
Yeah.
does the laundry and I do the cooking. He says, I don't want you doing laundry because you're gonna leave it there in the dryer and
Yeah.
you're gonna forget it in the washer, and then 2 days later you're gonna wash it again, and then start the washer again.
Well, thank you so much for this time.
No,
I
thank
really enjoyed our conversation. And where can people follow you?
Facebook and on Instagram. I'm not very active, but I'm trying to be. I'll try to be more present,
Yes,
on
please be more
platforms.
present so we can interact. And I will put your handles in the description below so people can be able to interact with you and ask questions.